Have you ever had that nagging voice in your head whispering, "You don't belong here"? Maybe you landed a big promotion, aced a project, or even just received a compliment, and instead of feeling proud, you thought, "They're going to find out I'm not as good as they think." If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. In fact, you're in some pretty impressive company. Scientists, CEOs, artists, and even Oscar-winning actors have admitted to feeling the exact same way. This, my friend, is imposter syndrome. That sneaky, unshakable feeling that you're a fraud, that your success is just luck, and that sooner or later, everyone will figure out you've been faking it this whole time. And here's the wild part. It doesn't matter how much evidence there is that you're talented, skilled, or deserving. Imposter syndrome doesn't play by logic. So why does this happen? Why do so many of us, whether we're in our 20s just starting out or in our 60s with decades of experience, still feel like we're one mistake away from being exposed? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack in this video. We'll explore where these feelings come from, why they stick around, and most importantly, how to quiet that inner critic so you can finally own your success without doubt creeping in. Let's start with something crucial. Imposter syndrome isn't about reality. It's about perception. You could have a wall of awards, a stack of glowing performance reviews, or a thriving business, and still feel like you're barely keeping it together. That's because imposter syndrome thrives on two things: comparison and fear. First, comparison. We live in a world where it's easier than ever to see everyone else's highlight reels. Social media, LinkedIn, even casual conversations can make it seem like everyone else has it all figured out. But here's the truth: no one does. Not really. The person you're comparing yourself to, they've probably had their own moments of self-doubt. They just don't talk about it as loudly as they talk about their wins. And then there's fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not living up to expectations. Sometimes this fear comes from past experiences. Maybe you were criticized harshly as a kid, or maybe you've internalized the idea that you have to be perfect to be valued. Whatever the root, that fear keeps the imposter syndrome cycle spinning. But here's the good news. Just because you feel like an imposter doesn't mean you are one. In fact, that very feeling might be a sign that you're doing something right. Think about it. Imposter syndrome often shows up when we're pushing ourselves, growing, stepping out of our comfort zones. It's uncomfortable, but it's also a sign that you're challenging yourself in meaningful ways. So how do we start breaking free from this cycle? The first step is simple but powerful. Name it. When that voice says, "You don't deserve this," recognize it for what it is: imposter syndrome, not truth. Just acknowledging it takes away some of its power. The second step, reframe your thoughts. Instead of thinking, "I got lucky this time," try, "I worked hard for this and I earned it." Instead of, "Everyone else knows more than me," remind yourself, "I'm here because I have something valuable to contribute." It might feel forced at first, but over time, these small shifts can rewire how you see yourself. Now, let's talk about something that might surprise you: perfectionism. You might think striving for perfection is a good thing. After all, isn't it about doing your best? But here's the catch. Perfectionism is often imposter syndrome's best friend. It sets impossible standards, so no matter how well you do, it's never enough. If you're someone who thinks, "If I can't do it flawlessly, why bother?" or "I can't ask for help, they'll think I'm incompetent," then perfectionism might be fueling your imposter feelings. The fix? Embrace good enough. Give yourself permission to be human, to learn as you go, to make mistakes without tying them to your worth. And with that, we've laid the groundwork for understanding imposter syndrome, why it happens, how it messes with our heads, and the first steps to overcoming it. But there's more to explore, like how to stop overworking to prove yourself, why celebrating small wins matters, and how to build real, unshakable confidence. So let's keep going, because you deserve to feel as capable as you truly are. You know that moment when you finally achieve something you've worked hard for. Maybe it's landing a new job, finishing a big project, or even just getting through a tough week. And instead of letting yourself feel proud, you immediately think, "Okay, but what's next?" Or worse, I barely made it through. Next time, I might not be so lucky." That right there? That's imposter syndrome stealing your joy. In the first part of this video, we talked about how imposter syndrome tricks us into believing we're not as capable as we really are. We touched on comparison, fear, and perfectionism, those sneaky little saboteurs that keep us stuck in self-doubt. Now, let's dig deeper into how we can actually break free from this cycle. Because here's the thing, you don't have to keep feeling this way. One of the biggest traps of imposter syndrome is the belief that more effort will finally make us feel like we belong. So we overwork, overprepare, and overdeliver, burning ourselves out just to quiet that nagging voice that says, "You're not enough." But guess what? No amount of extra hours or flawless performance will ever satisfy that voice. Because imposter syndrome isn't about facts, it's about feelings. So how do we stop this exhausting cycle? Let's start with something counterintuitive, doing less to prove more. Think about it. When you push yourself to exhaustion just to make sure no one finds out you're a fraud, what you're really doing is reinforcing the belief that your worth is tied to constant achievement. But here's the truth. You don't have to earn your place. You already belong. Try this instead. The next time you catch yourself staying late to tweak a presentation for the 10th time, or hesitating to speak up in a meeting because you're afraid of saying the wrong thing, pause. Ask yourself, would I expect this level of perfection from someone else? Chances are, the answer is no. So why hold yourself to an impossible standard? Another powerful way to break the cycle is to normalize the feeling. That means talking about it. You'd be amazed how many people around you, colleagues, mentors, even that confident-seeming friend, have felt the exact same way. When we keep imposter syndrome hidden, it grows. But when we bring it into the light, it loses its power. Try sharing your feelings with someone you trust. You might say something like, "Sometimes I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, even though I've been doing this for years." Do you ever feel that way? More often than not, they'll nod and say, "All the time." That simple moment of connection can be incredibly freeing. Now let's talk about another key piece of the puzzle, celebrating small wins. Imposter syndrome loves to downplay our successes. We hit a goal, and instead of pausing to acknowledge it, we immediately shift focus to the next challenge. It's like running a marathon and refusing to drink water because you're not at the finish line yet. But here's why that's a problem. When we don't let ourselves feel successful, we reinforce the belief that we're not successful. So start small. Finish the task. Take a second to acknowledge it. Receive positive feedback. Write it down and revisit it when doubt creeps in. These little moments of recognition add up, slowly rewiring your brain to internalize your achievements. And finally, let's tackle one of the most common fears, being found out. This fear keeps so many of us playing small, avoiding opportunities, hesitating to take risks, or even self-sabotaging because it feels safer than the possibility of failing publicly. But here's the reality. Everyone stumbles. Everyone has gaps in their knowledge. The difference between someone who seems confident and someone paralyzed by imposter syndrome isn't skill. It's how they frame their mistakes. Instead of thinking, "If I don't know this, I'm a fraud," try shifting to, "I don't know this yet, and that's okay." Curiosity is a far more powerful mindset than perfection. So where do we go from here? We've covered how to stop overworking to prove yourself, why sharing your feelings helps, and how celebrating small wins builds real confidence. But there's still one crucial piece left: how to cultivate lasting self-assurance, not just temporary relief. That's what we'll dive into next, because you deserve to step into your strengths without hesitation, and I can't wait to show you how. There's a moment, right before you walk into a big meeting, send that email, or step onto a stage, when your brain whispers, "What if this is the time they realize you don't actually know what you're doing?" And no matter how many times you've succeeded before, that fear feels fresh every single time. But what if you could rewrite that script? In the last two parts of this video, we've unpacked why imposter syndrome happens and how to stop feeding it with overwork, silence, and self-doubt. Now, let's talk about the final and most liberating step, building confidence that isn't tied to external validation. Because true confidence isn't about never feeling unsure. It's about trusting yourself even when you are. The myth of fake it till you make it. You've probably heard this advice 1,000 times. Just fake confidence until it feels real. And sure, sometimes pretending helps you push through fear. But here's the problem. If you're already struggling with imposter syndrome, faking it can backfire. It becomes one more performance, one more mask to maintain, and deep down it reinforces the idea that the real you isn't enough. Instead, try this, own it as you grow into it. That means acknowledging where you are right now, skills, gaps, and all, without apologizing for it. Confidence isn't about knowing everything. It's about trusting that you can figure things out. The power of yet. Language shapes how we see ourselves. When you say, "I'm not good at this," your brain hears, "I'll never be good at this." But add one simple word, yet, and suddenly it becomes, "I'm on my way." This tiny shift does two things. 1, it honors your current abilities without exaggerating them. 2, it leaves room for growth without shame. Try it. Next time you're tempted to say, "I don't belong here," pause and reframe. "I'm still getting comfortable here," and that's okay. Redefine what expertise looks like. Imposter syndrome often flares up when we compare ourselves to an unrealistic ideal. The expert who never struggles, never doubts, never has to Google something at 2 a.m. But real expertise isn't about having all the answers. It's about knowing how to find them. Think about the people you admire most. Chances are their brilliance isn't in their perfection. It's in their curiosity, their resilience, their willingness to say, "I don't know, but let's learn." Give yourself permission to be that kind of expert. Create a brag file. Here's a practical tool. Keep a folder, digital or physical, of proof you're capable. Save a nice email from a client? Add it. Got positive feedback? Screenshot it. Finished a project you're proud of? Note it down. When doubt creeps in, open that file. It's hard to argue with a mountain of evidence. The game changer, mentorship. Something magical happens when you start guiding others. Whether it's formally mentoring someone or just offering advice to a colleague, you'll quickly realize you know more than you think. Teaching forces you to articulate what you've learned, and in the process, you see your own growth clearly. Final thought, you're not supposed to feel ready. Here's the secret no one tells you. No one feels 100% ready for the next big thing. Not the CEO, not the award-winning artist, not the surgeon who's performed 1,000 operations. They've just learned to move forward with the doubt instead of waiting for it to disappear. So the next time that voice whispers, "Who do you think you are?" answer it. Someone who's learning, growing, and deserving of every opportunity I've earned. Because you are. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. When did imposter syndrome hit you hardest? And what helped you push through? Let's normalize these conversations. And if you found this helpful, hit that like button and subscribe for more videos on quieting self-doubt and owning your potential. Remember, you're not a fraud. You're a work in progress, just like everyone else. Here's to embracing the journey.